Welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast, where we discuss all things empowering, encouraging and inspiring. My name is Yvonne Ellis. I'm an empowerment speaker, author, coach, trainer and founder of YEME Empowerment, a company that facilitates the empowerment of people. I help people to make positive life change, live in their purpose and develop into their best version of self. I share stories, interviews, spiritual encouragement and actionable tips to empower, encourage and inspire you to live the life you want. So if you want to live the empowered life, join me each week on my podcast so we can take the journey together. Hello Empowered Lifers. Welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast, episode 5 of the podcast today. Oh my gosh, the time has just gone by so quickly. I started this podcast on November the 30th last year. I think maybe because it's a bi-weekly podcast, I think maybe that's why I feel the time has gone really quick. But if it's your first time joining me, thank you for listening in on this podcast. And to those of you who've listened in on my other episodes, thank you for your continued support. Episode 4, Reset 2021, was the highest amount of listens I've had on my podcast so far. And I also owe you an apology if you did listen in on that episode, because I realised that the recording levels at the beginning of that episode on my intro was quite loud. So the music was louder than my voice, and I did pick up on it, and a couple of my listeners did pick up on it as well. Going forward, I will continue to make the podcast as best as I can by continuing to learn all the things that I need to do to make it really enjoyable for you to listen into. Just a quick mention as well, if you're listening to the podcast on Apple, iTunes, Stitcher or Spotify, please subscribe so that you can get any notifications of when I do post a podcast episode as well. So as I mentioned, today's episode is episode 5 of the podcast, and today I'm going to be talking to you about what's in your hand. And I was inspired to do this podcast episode because a coaching client of mine is embarking on a new journey where she's going to step out and do something that she's really passionate about. And as we were talking, she mentioned that because she didn't have some things in place, it might be hard to start pursuing the things that she wanted to do. And I was reminded of my story in a sense, because I remember when I was in my last traditional paid job back in 2018, just before I left, I was really unhappy there because I really felt I wasn't using my skills and talents to the best of my ability, and I certainly didn't feel like I was walking in my purpose. And one of the things that was keeping me bound, keeping me from stepping out to set up my own business, to set up my own empowerment company, was the thought that I didn't have everything I needed to have in place, because I thought I had to have loads of clients in place before I left. I thought I had to have lots of money to leave this job, so I could continue to sustain my family and help provide for my family. I thought I had to have contracts in place, a big business plan, an all singing, all dancing business plan. Even though I had an outline of the vision, I didn't have all the intricate details. And I also thought at one point that I had to have real confidence as well, to believe that I could have all these things in place and then I'd be able to step out. But from my experience, it didn't work like that. And what happened is that when I decided I could take no more, I left in April 2018 and just stepped out. I took a step of faith. I stepped into the unknown. I trusted God to help me to figure it all out, because, I felt led to leave my job. It wasn't a thing that happened overnight. It was an 18-month process. I believed it was the path I was supposed to take, but I was scared because I was looking at everything I didn't have. But I just decided to leave, even with all those things that were going on in my mind, because they've been going around in my mind anyway for the last 18 months before I left that job. So I stepped out, and by the end of that month, because I left the 2nd of April 2018, set up my own company, and then at the end of that month, April 2018, I got my first paid contract under YEME Empowerment. And it didn't involve any of the things that I've just mentioned to you. It was about using the things I already had in my hand. So when I talk about using what's in your hand, I'm talking about using your skills, your experiences, your talents, things that you're passionate about, and using resources around you that you can kind of tap into for free. So when I got the contract, it wasn't because I was doing anything new at the time. It was using the things that I had already been using. So that really just opened up my eyes really to knowing that, I could already tap into the things that I had within me. And as my coaching client was just telling me about some of the things that she felt would be a challenge in her stepping out and doing what she wanted to do, I was just, really passionate about wanting to share this with you about using what's in your hand. You have to start with what you have. You have to build on what you have and go forward and have faith and, step out into the unknown. One of the things I always say is that confidence comes through having courage. You have to take the first step. You have to move forward. And then on moving forward, it's then that you can see what you need to do differently. And I liken the process really to that of a baby that's taking their first steps. They've never learned how to walk before. They're actually trying, they're trying to get up on their feet. And each time that they do try and get up on their feet, they might take one step, fall on their bum, on their little pampers. They try again, they build on one step. They take another step, they take 2 steps, 5 steps, 10 steps, and before you know it, they're up and walking. And that was the process that my daughter, my youngest daughter, both of my children went through actually. They started off taking 1 or 2 steps, and then after that, by the end of the day, I remember with my second daughter, Jada, she was just walking from one end of the room to the other. At the beginning of the day, she didn't even know how to take even 3 or 4 steps. And that is what it's like when you're using what's in your hand. Your experiences, your talents, your skills, if you've not been walking in them, if you've not been using them, it's going to take a while for you to start to know how to utilize them. It's going to take a while for you to know how to best use them. And the best way to do that is to try.